So here's the kit that it comes with. You can see that part of it is a kind of up. This is the part that goes in the upper end of the upper end that goes on the actual, actually on the top part of the step, and this is the part that goes in the bottom. So I got some assembly to do, and this stuff looks like it's pretty easy. It's got a bunch of bolts on here. They're 10 millimeter and 14 bolts. Looks like some of this stuff got a little banged up because, you know, probably came over from God knows where. It probably came from China or someplace like that. So you can see some of these things are a little crooked. So for it to fit correctly on there, I'm going to have to bend some of these things. So make sure you have yourself some pliers on here. But that one looks like it's a little bit crooked, so it's probably not going to fit on there. So do get yourself some pliers. They actually provided some tools here to use here, which are some wrenches, but I'm too old and arthritic to want to deal with those things, so I'm going to actually just use a socket tool here, and some sockets and some regular wrenches that have box ends on them, so that I can hold them pretty well and just put them together mechanically. So either way, use the tools that they give you. If that's all you have and you don't feel like getting any other tools, I do so much of these things myself that I tend to value the wear and tear on my hands and the rest of my body, so I don't typically use the stuff they give you. But they do come in handy when you need it. So I just tightened all the pieces down. They have locking nuts on here along with the bolts. Just hand tight. It actually still moves around a little bit, so I can kick it around and it kind of moves. I'm gonna tighten it a little bit more, but I'm not gonna tighten it all the way down, because when you mount these on the stairs, you're gonna want to have a little bit of play on them, just to make sure that they mount flat, and you can move them around just a little bit, and you cinch them up after you get them all the way down. One thing I wanted to mention, and this is probably a simple thing you guys are aware of, but obviously you want the inside of these facing toward the inside of the steps, not toward the outside. So the way I actually put it in here, you can see that that I'm going to flop it over the other side rail. I'm going to flop it over and assemble it the other way, just so these are on the right side of the step. If you're facing it, it'll show up with the bolt heads on the inside, and they're not sticking out, and you don't have any bolt that's sticking out toward the hands, toward the thumbs, or anything like that when you're walking up the steps. So just one of the little reminders, I've learned through many trial and tribulations that you kind of pay attention to those details just to keep yourself from doing it over again. So I'm going to flop the next one over and do it exactly 180 degrees the other way. I'm going to have it completely the other side. I'm going to put the bolts down through the other side, and so that from the inside perspective, neither side, your left hand with your left thumb or your right thumb is not going to be able to feel anything except for maybe the bolt heads that are sticking out of there. Because the last thing you want to get on the other side is like a 1/4 inch of bolt or whatever else sticking in there and hitting your thumb on it, and potentially cutting your thumb when you're walking up the stairs. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up. So I got these rail assemblies completed, so time to install them now. So I'm going to be putting them down onto bluestone landing. So I'm going to be using an expansion bolt. So I'm going to drill a hole. First I'm going to mark it with the bottoms. You guys can see the bottoms that I'm going to be using there, but I'm going to be marking 4 holes in the bottom for each of the posts. There's going to be one post up here and one on the very bottom step here, and I'm going to mark them with mark it with a Sharpie pen. But I'm going to be using these because expansion bolts, this will go down probably about a little over probably about 2 inches or so, and once you tighten those down, the metal around these expansion bolts actually expands in there and holds it in. So that's going to be great. If you guys have like a wooden deck, the kit actually comes with these screws as well, that you can put down into a wooden landing if you have that. I know there's a lot of people that have wooden landings, so you know, this will come in handy. They give you both. They give you the hardware for both, so that's pretty good. Again, you know, they gave me all the wrenches and everything else, but I don't tend to use them that much just because they take a lot of time. I have a wrench, and I'm going to use like a driver tool to kind of get you know, get these bolts situated. That's kind of what I did with these. I didn't tighten them all the way down yet, but I will. So you know, that's going to be the main thing. Is just right now I need to get somebody to help me, so I'm gonna get my wife out here and just I'm gonna put it in place, the actual rail assemblies, and I'm probably gonna move it about 2 inches away from here, this area right here, and run it straight down there to the last stair. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side. So that, you know, that'll work out pretty well. It's going to be a pretty easy. You just got to make sure that when if you guys are doing it on a stone or concrete, or you know, or anything like bluestone or whatever, that I mean, one nice thing to have is, and if you don't have one, a hammer drill is actually pretty good to be able to, you know, cut through these concrete, and make sure you get like a bit that'll be able to cut through this stuff as well. A hammer drill bit, because if you use a masonry bit and it's not a hammer drill bit, you're gonna wear it out, and it's not gonna work out very well. But you can see that the bit I'm using is going to be exactly the same size as the outside of that the outside of the expansion bolt. So I'm going to drill 4 holes again right there, and I'll show you in a second. I'm going to mark it first, and then get my wife to help me mark it, and then I'm going to proceed on. Well, we got this all finished up. The only problem is you can see that this isn't fitting very well down here. If you look around here, where it's supposed to be installed next to the other railing, it's way too high. So we have a little bit of a size disparity. Not only that, but you probably can't do this, but the angle is kind of angling up a little bit. So my steps are probably, now that I look at my neighbors, some of my neighbors' steps, I realize that the steps are probably a lot larger than my neighbors. So they're so this ends up being a lot steeper on this side. So my original plan of mounting it on the top one kind of fell apart there. So be prepared to make changes to your plans at the last minute. So what we're going to do is try to move it down to the next step, the first step actually down, and then move that here on the last step, move it down to that little patch of concrete down there. We'll see how that works out. Not much of a space from a concrete perspective, so that changes things around a little bit. So that's kind of it, I guess, for now. I'm looking at I actually had drilled the holes all ready for this. So you know, they gave me some of those expansion bolts that I showed you guys earlier in the video, but I don't feel comfortable with the expansion bolts because they actually had 14 millimeter heads on them, and I don't have a bit, like a masonry bit, that is metric. So I just went ahead and went down to Ace Hardware and bought some lag bolts. You can see basically the lag sleeve here and the lag bolts here, to go ahead and put those in anyway, because you know, I've used these before and they work pretty well. So I went with what I know here. So what I'm doing is basically use a 1/2 inch masonry bit on a hammer drill, and you drill it in, and it's pretty easy to do on these flagstone steps. It's pretty simple. They're very consistent, so you can drill pretty much right through them without too much of a problem if you have a hammer drill. So I got, you know, a masonry bit, 1/2 inch masonry bit, drilled through. You know, went down about as far as that. So maybe like 1.5 inches or so. Maybe 1 3/4 inches, just for good measure. So if you look at this right here, once you get the holes drilled, all you got to do is drop these these basically these sleeves down in the hole, and once you get them down in the hole, you can actually stick the bolts down here, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But it's kind of nice because it works fairly well. The only problem is, and I'm going to show you guys in a second what the bottom part is going to be like, because that's a little different as well. But I'm going to fasten up the top half and show you guys the bottom part, and go ahead and install this now. All I'm going to do is basically put this piece right down here, right on those on that bolt pattern. When I drilled these, it wasn't that big of a deal. I put this right on over the top, and I used a Sharpie marker just to mark where I was going to put the holes. I was very careful. I put the marker right in the center, marked the center, and was careful to stay right on task there, right on the center part of it, just so I don't so the things aren't misaligned. This flagstone's fairly soft, so it's pretty easy to work with, so no big deal there. I'm going to go ahead and fasten this piece of it up. Then I'll show you what's going to happen, I guess, on the bottom end of this, because it's going to be a little bit different just because of what I have to work with. It's going to be concrete sidewalk versus flagstone, so working with that's a little bit different. So hold on just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. I actually went ahead and hand tightened them down as far as they could go, so I'm going to tighten them up with this now. All right, that's pretty tight right there. So the top's tightened down. That's not going to go anywhere. So now the bottom piece is going to be a little bit on the problematic side. So you guys see what I have to work with down here. I already started to drill the holes a little bit down here. So what I'm going to be using is some actual some screws here. Actually, let me go get them here. I forgot to mention this again, but if you don't have like an impact driver, like, you know, I like to use this again to kind of save my wrist a little bit and save moving around too much. So, you know, if you have a ratchet, that'd be great. If you don't have a ratchet, you know, you can even use like a 1/2 inch, or is that? I think it's about. I know it's a little smaller than a 1/2 inch. I can't remember what it is on these lag bolts to go ahead and tighten them down. But, you know, if you have a ratchet set, that's great. If not, you know, wrenches work fine as well. I use wrenches all the time. So, but, you know, I'm going to go the simplest way. So, easier on the body. So I had the guy at the hardware store. He recommended these. You can see I don't have that much worry or that much room to be able to drive 1/2 inch holes in here. Not only that, but when you're working with concrete, you guys can see that there's like a ton of different there's gravel, there's all kinds of stuff mixed in with the mortar here. When you try to take a 1/2 inch bit and drill through that, it gets pretty sloppy, and the bit tends to slip around quite a bit. So I'm going to take a slightly different angle, and I talked to the guy at the hardware store. Some of them are really good because they used to work in a trade. So I've never really attempted this, but he goes, "Hey, I used to do stuff like that all the time." I just take these concrete screws here, these Tapcon screws here, and basically, it looks like too much. I mean, they basically have like a T25 head on them, so I can just drill them into where they need to. And if you use like a 5/32, they recommend on the box here that you use a 5/32 drill bit to be able to drill a hole for it, and it should work pretty well. The guy told me it holds pretty decent. He goes, if you're not going to put in an unbelievable amount of torque on something like this, it'll hold well. And he goes, you know, how much torque are you going to put on? I guess maybe if there's somebody that, you know, if we have anybody that's 500 pounds and really puts their weight against it, they might be able to snap it off. But typically, these things actually have some pretty decent holding power. So I'm going to use that with some washers. And I'm going to drill those out. I actually have a hammer drill, which is over here. I put on that 5 30 seconds bit. I'm going to try drilling those the holes out and getting them down. I'm probably going to put a piece of tape, measure it out and see how long the screws are, and put a piece of tape around the bit so I know how far to go down. That way I'm not wasting my time drilling too deep, because again, these things do take a while to drill out. So you know, it's not that bad, but it helps to be a little bit prepared. So be prepared to change your plan. In addition to that, over here I just noticed that, you know, obviously it's not sitting flat. You guys notice that if you look at it, there's a gap under the front edge of this stuff. So somehow I'm going to probably use, I got some plastic shims that I'm going to use, that I'm going to stick underneath there to shore this thing up, and kind of pound them underneath there. I might even put some thin set under there or something else once that happens, and put them all together just to make sure that it has a pretty solid base to be on. But I think if I put those shims in there, that'll be pretty solid. That'll be pretty solid. It'll get me to the point where when I screw this down tight, that it's not going to wobble around. We'll see what happens once I get the screws in. I'll try to shake it around and see what happens. And once I go through and I actually cinch down all of the other pieces, you know, that were not tightened down before, it'll make these guardrails pretty rigid. So that'll be good as well. So I'm gonna get these holes drilled out. Finally got everything anchored down. So I ended up using those blue screws down here with some. Believe it or not, the washers, I just took them off of the ones that were for wood decking that came with the kits. So those washers actually fit fine. So I got both of those anchored down. Very sturdy. This is not going anywhere. Very strong. And the upper ones are strong. Those had lag bolts in them, so those are really good. I definitely like the lag bolts. They worked really well. So. And that wraps it up. I guess, you know, I'm pretty much done with the porch now. Well, except for I gotta clean up those other railings, because they're a little bit rusty and peeling. So I'm gonna take a wire brush to that with the angle grinder I got, because good old multi-purpose tools, you can kind of use them for everything. And I'm gonna knock all that off of there and then repaint it, and we should be good to go. So the cheapest way to get these railings installed actually worked out well. So what's not to like about that?